Good evening, everyone, and happy Mother's Day. We want to welcome you to our Mother's Day panel entitled "Mother Knows Best." We all love hearing. I love hearing
Yes,
that, right?
absolutely.
So we are here with a great bunch of people today. First, we want to say Happy Mother's Day to you guys.
Yay, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
And happy Mother's Day to everyone who is tuning in. We hope that you will enjoy today's conversation. Please do us a favor and click your share button so that your friends and family can watch along with you. Let them know to tune in and that we're going to have a great conversation. So we're going to do a little bit of an icebreaker so we can introduce everyone. Mommy, want to explain what's going to happen?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Happy Mother's Day. We're going to just go around and introduce ourselves. We want this to be a casual conversation. We want it to, first of all, be a conversation. And we want to learn from each other, share with each other, and I guess share those life lessons that we've picked up over the course of our lifetimes and some things that we would want and hope for our children. So one of the things I like to do when we do these type of sessions is to do an icebreaker. So what I would like us to do is go around, introduce yourself, and then I want you to answer the following question. If your mom, son, or daughter was a superhero, what would their superpower be? So what would their superpower be? So I will start as an example. Maya, what would her superpower be if she was a superhero? Well, I already think she is a superhero. But I think her superhero power would have something to do with the heart, where she could change people's hearts from something malice into something kind. So if she had the ability to do that.
Oh, that's a nice one. Thank you. I already know this is your superpower. It's something that I admire you so much. Is your ability to talk.
Okay, wait a minute.
I mean that in the kindest of ways, but you have such a way with people that you can get them to open up and to connect with people, and to touch people, to encourage them and to help get them from some of the hardest moments in life. And that everyone can do that and everyone can relate to people in that way. So that's something that I admire about you. And I think it's your superpower, among other things.
That's so sweet. Okay, show over.
So if I had to choose a superpower for Ronald, I would say the power of the sun, because I would say that because one, when he walks in the room, he brightens everybody's day with that smile. And it is strong. The sun is strong and powerful, and it also warms any environment. Oh. So I would think that's his superpower, because it would be the strength along with the warmth along with the brightness he brings into any atmosphere.
And I would certainly agree with that, but we want you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are as well.
Oh, yes. I'm Martinique Woods, and this is my wonderful son, Ronald Green. Oh. And so I'm really excited to be here, and I look forward to, having this conversation, just highlighting what moms do with what and how we support our kids to greatness. So
wonderful.
Okay, so like my mom said, I'm Ronald Green. I'm a junior deacon at Bethany Baptist Church. If I could, this is my mom. If I could give her a superpower, I'd probably give her wisdom, because there's no situation where I am worried that I can't call my mom about anything. So when it comes to any circumstance, I know I can call my mom and she's going to give me the best advice. She's going to give me the best information possible to lead me in the right direction. And even when it comes to, I call my mom about my friends' issues. I'm like, Mom, this is what happened with my friends and I need your advice. And she gives my friends just as great advice as she would give me. So if I had to give her superpower, I would.
Go ahead, Mom.
Okay. I'm Sister June White at Bethany Baptist Church. I'm chairman of the Giannis Ministry. It's a breast health ministry to support and buddy with anyone going through the diagnosis. If I had to speak on the superpower that Reverend Rich has, it would be love and the ability to share. He shares everything he gives. And I think that it's a contagious situation when he offers to pitch in and helps a situation. You find that there are people who will follow. So it's love and the ability to give and sharing.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly good to be with y'all. Many of you have seen me before somewhere with Maya, always putting me to work. But nevertheless, good to be here. My mother's superpower, I guess the fruit don't fall far from the tree, because I was going to say service, right? There's always a high level of service, which a lot of folks don't like to do. But the spirit to serve is there. And again, I guess the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree, because it kind of sounds like what she just said about me in giving. But service is certainly her superpower, and I love her for it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that was great. That's great. Wow, those were fantastic answers. Fantastic, and it's so nice to hear. It's so nice to hear parents reverence their children and children reverence their parents. We don't hear enough of that these days, particularly now. You know, life is so busy. Everybody sits at the dinner table with their electronic stuff, and nobody talks anymore. No one ever. Sometimes parents don't even talk to the kids. Kids don't talk to their parents. And we grow up in an environment where sometimes you just feel very separate and isolated, and then you really don't get to know each other. So in keeping in that vein and that questioning or that line of thought, you know, in what way do you think that your son or your daughter is like you? You know, I always say that children are a mirror image of who we are, the good, bad, and the not so pretty. Okay. You know, so I told my kids, okay, I'll pay for therapy later. I will. I promise. But in what ways do you think your children are like you? What are the things that you can see in them that you go, they got that directly from me?
I would have to say one of the reasons why Ronnie mentioned wisdom and even giving his friends advice is because his friends come to him for advice. His friends come to him for guidance. He's always that wise sort of anchor when it comes to his friends, and he gets that from me. So it's funny how if there's something he can't guide them on, he comes to me, but they came to him first. They didn't come to him and say, oh, call your mom and ask. They came to him and say, oh, Ronnie, I need your advice on something. What do you think about this? Or I need your help with something. What do you think about this? Now, if he can give that guidance, great. If he'll phone a friend or phone a mom, or FaceTime a mom, you know, FaceTime mom and be like, I was thinking. So I would think he gets that from me. People feel comfortable talking to him. People trust that they're going to get good advice and sound advice and spiritual advice and prayer. So he gets that from me, which is great.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably a lesson that you couldn't teach him. He had to learn through observation. Yeah. You know, when we talk about passing things on to children and traits and things like that, you know, I always say children learn what they live. And I know Bishop was doing a panel and someone said children learn what they feel, which I like that even better. So there was obviously something in the way that you communicated with him as a mom that he saw you communicate with him and others that allowed him to almost to soak that up, to just to soak it in.
What would you used to say when my phone would ring from a certain person?
She's her being a therapist.
Yeah.
That's like another therapy session.
Right. If he would see certain
I know how
people,
that is.
Like, okay. He goes, he would always joke and say, "Oh, here comes the therapy session."
Maya understands. As a matter of fact, my son was probably around 6 or 8, and he says, "Mom, is there a support group for kids who have parents who are therapists?"
We need it.
I need a support group. So that's important that we pass these things on and we don't even realize it. We don't even realize. So, Sister June, what about you? What are some things that you see in your wonderful, darling son or any of your children that you see that came directly from me and them living with me?
I was sitting here thinking that I'm going to piggyback on Sister Martinique's comments, because I'm reflecting on a situation when a parent actually called me when the boys were old enough to go out without us. And this is like maybe last year, high school, early times in college. I had a parent call me and tell me of a situation and how she wanted her son to have that relationship continue with Rich at the time, now Reverend Rich, because she felt that he would take the posture to say, "No, man, you know your mom wouldn't like that." And that was really such a powerful compliment, to know that there would be somebody in the group who would say, "Okay, it's time to knock it off," or "Stop that," or "You know your mom wouldn't like that." And that has followed him. It's followed him through his early teens, his late teens, and now in life. He still has that in his personality.
I've been in plenty of trouble though, but I've been in plenty. I think I ain't getting no trouble. I done messing stuff up now.
I was waiting for the angel wings to start sprouting as she was talking. But you know,
we're not talking about that today. We're not talking about that.
But you know that is really important, because Reverend Richard had to take us. It had to take a certain amount of. It had to take a certain amount of self-assurance. It had to take a certain amount of solidity, for lack of a better word, to be able to do that. It's easy as a parent for us to say, do these things, always do the right things, say the right things, I expect certain things, but to actually have your children live it is when I've been teaching parenting class for like 30 years. One of the things I often talk about is that you want your children to have their own guidelines, to do their own discipline when you're not around. You know, that's the goal of parenting. How are your children behaving when you're nowhere around? So they are functioning in their own morals. They're functioning in their own abilities to make decisions. So, you know, Reverend Rich, it must have taken a lot of courage at that point to stand up to people and say, no, you don't want to do that.
Well, I think the blessing in that is you don't want to disappoint your parents, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things. I was a chemist, so in college, I could have, I had friends say, well, why don't you make us this? And I could have made a lot of different things, And I was like, I can't do that, I can't, I'm not gonna dishonor my parents. But I think the blessing in that is when, which Maya and Ronald can't talk to just yet, but I can, because I have, 20-year-old kids, is when you see in your kids that their friends' parents want their kids to be around your kids.
Yeah.
For the same reason.
Yeah.
So when you see that perpetuate itself, everybody always wants to talk about generational curses, but there's a lot to be said about generational blessing.
Yeah.
There's always a lot to be said about generational blessing, and we can't negate that. Not all the bad stuff. Bad stuff does happen, but there's a lot of good stuff that falls through the generations also. Yeah.
And we don't pay, and I agree, we don't pay attention. We don't pay attention to that. We don't pay attention to the good stuff that happens. We don't pay attention to those good life lessons that we learn or we're passing on without even knowing. If something bad happens, that's what gets all the attention, and really
we don't talk about it enough. We don't share it enough.
Share the good news. I agree.
Yes.
I agree. I agree. So
I was going to say, it's interesting to me because just as you say, like as parents, you want to impart on them a life lesson. I think too, as children, we don't realize exactly how we're soaking up those lessons. They just kind of come out
Yeah.
You know, I might be saying something like, "Ooh, that was my mom coming out."
That's right.
Where
That's so
did she
true.
come from?
That's so true though, Maya. That's so true. I mean, I
Yeah.
would go to my mom's house to fix something,
Uh-huh.
and I remember when I was a kid that my dad would say, "You use my tools whenever you want to use them. Just put them back where you got it from."
Yeah.
And to this day, my dad been gone 15 years. I still put that hammer or that screwdriver back where I got it from because it's a life lesson. It's a life lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So a question that I want to ask of the kids, if you had to pick one life lesson that impacted you the most, what lesson do you think that would be?
That's a good question.
Wow.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I gotta think.
Okay, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I think one of the greatest life lessons that I've learned from both my parents, but my mom especially, is it matters how you treat people. One of the quotes that I always remember her telling me is from Maya Angelou. People may not ever remember your name, what you come from. I might be ad-libbing a little bit, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And you know, that again, that's something that I always looked up to, and how my mom treated other people. And that's something I admire or try to do for myself. So that is definitely a life lesson, Mom, that I learned from you. You know, it matters how you treat people, not for self-gain, but just, you know, even as a child of God, like you want to treat people nicely because that's a reflection of how God's grace is on you as well.
That quote from Maya Angelou I use in our brunches. I think it is so powerful.
It is very powerful.
People do not remember what you gave them. If they're getting 80 gifts for a celebration for themselves, they may not remember a one gift, but they will always remember how you made them feel. It carries through life, and you can go forever and not see them, and then when you come together, there is that connection. It's there because they made you feel good. You had a good exchange.
My mom always told me that I was blessed to be a blessing to others. I think that's probably why I wanted to go into the healthcare field, because I wanted that one-on-one patient interaction, and just kind of, you know, have an impact in their lives. And I'm always coming to work with a smile on my face, there to help, and it's reassuring, and it's nice to feel that, like, I'm knowing that I'm, you know, people in the hospital usually are sad and upset, whatever reason they're there for, they obviously don't want to be there for. But just to have someone coming in with always a smile on their face, asking how they're doing, talking to them, and giving a conversation, it definitely warms the heart, because, you know, maybe coming the next day, they're excited to see me again. Oh, hey, Ron, how are you? Oh my gosh, I'm glad you're here. So she's always said I'm blessed to be a blessing to others, and it's nice to know that I can even a little impact in someone's life, knowing that, you know, I can put a smile on their face.
Exactly.
I was, you know, treating them nicely, deciding to just take 5 minutes to have a conversation with them, because in the hospital, it's easy to get alone and consumed in your own thoughts.
Play video games.
And stuff like that.
He had a great story about it.
Maybe last month, I had to sit with a kid. He was like 12 years old, and he was in a burn unit. He had burns, like 30 burns all throughout his body. And I had to sit with him, and he had all his video games set up, and he was like, "Oh, can we play video games?" Because most of the aides and nurses are females, so like they don't sit down and play video games with them. And he asked me to play video games with him. I was like, "Yeah, sure, like let's play video games." And he was so excited. We played Legos and Call of Duty, and he had a great time. He was like asking me if I could be his friend, and I was like, of course. And it was a great time. It was sad that I had to leave at the end of my shift, but I was happy that I was able to help him, distract himself from the pain. He was in so much pain, distract himself and distract himself from all the other things, and he can just have a good time playing video games, like what most kids want to do,
Wow.
And a little bit of that Yeah, it's so nice. I was like a little bit, of that goes a long way too. Like you said, Ron, like I always get shocked whenever I'm like making a call and I ask the customer service person, how are you? And they're always so shocked that I ask them that because I guess they're not used to be what people being considered in the other way. So I mean, a little bit goes a long way.
People kind of throw that phrase out lightly, like "How are you?" Like no, like
how are you? Yeah.
Not just like, "Oh, I'm good." No, like how are you? Like like what's life? Like not I'm actually want to see how you feel, not just a casual phrase of "Oh, how are you?"
Yeah. Yeah. So it leaves. Reverend Rich, were you going to say something?
Well, you want me to answer the question?
Yeah.
It goes back to the same thread that we talked about earlier. It's the life lesson of giving, right? I've learned to give through watching my mom give unconditionally. I mean, she can tell you stories of when I was a kid and had a paper route, I would buy gifts for everybody. Or if I didn't have any money, I'd go out and get sticks and whittle them down and make them and shellac them and make them as letter openers. And just so I could have something to give to folks. Or, for the last, I'm 59. So since I was 25 years old, on my birthday, I always bless somebody else. And they never know who it is. I always give somebody a gift on my birthday just because... some people are good at giving, some people are good at taking. It just does something to me, and I've learned it from her and my dad too. But from her about it's okay to give because you're going to get the Lord will fill it back up. He doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're giving it; He's giving it to you, and I've watched it over and over and over and play out in my life. So just that life lesson of giving and being fine with giving and not worried about not having any more. And then you watch the fruits of your labor, and that's not why you give though. You give because you just like to give, not because you're looking to get. And it's just allowing that living water from the Lord to flow through you, not for you, through you.
And sometimes you'd be surprised how the littlest things have the biggest impact on people. We have all been blessed with things and people in our lives that love us, but there are a lot of people who don't have mothers and people to support them, particularly on this time. This can be a difficult time, So it is that power of the human interaction that can actually make a difference in someone's day. I was working with a client years ago and I gave him a hug for Thanksgiving or something. And he broke down and started crying. I'm like, what happened? And he was a ex-substance abuser. And he said, I haven't had a hug in about a year. He said, because my body was so cankered up from the sores from using drugs, no one would touch him. So something as simple as a casual hug sort of changed the trajectory of his day, so we never know the power of human touch, the power of interaction. And that becomes the life lesson. That becomes the thing that we get to pass on to other people. And sometimes we do it knowingly and sometimes we do it unknowingly. It just happens. So, when we talked earlier about the generational thing, we are living in a time now that it was just very interesting time too. I don't know how the kids are making it. There's so much going on with, you got social injustice, you got everything exploding. It's just a lot, living through this pandemic has been difficult for people. They're saying now that even younger kids are losing their ability to express themselves, babies, because they've seen people covered up like this, and babies like facial expressions. That's how they learn. So they're worried that babies will not learn how to express themselves. So when we talk about, generational things and life lessons, I often think about, particularly in parenting, how am I passing those things on to Maya that were passed to me? What are those life lessons that I learned from my mom or my parents, or particularly from my mom, that I've passed on to Maya and to my children? So that's sort of the question I wanted to get to for moms. What are some lessons that you learned from your parent, your caregiver, that you've passed on to your children? I think one of the things I've tried to be mindful of with my children is not only how you speak to people and how you interact with them, but be mindful of how people interact with you. My mother was very conscious of that. I could probably say she fought everywhere she went. Okay. So don't point that over here. but what it was teaching me, you know, in a way, it was teaching me that you have to be able to stand up for yourself, because if you don't know how to do that, people will walk over you. So I've had to temper it a little bit, you know, sometimes not perfectly, but, you know, I've had to learn and try to teach my children that in a way that my mother taught me, that it's okay that you have a voice, and it's okay to use your voice respectfully. Sometimes it's a challenge because you raise children who are able to speak, and other people will think they're being disrespected, or you know, a child should stay in a child's place. And I was not necessarily raised that way per se. So I tried to raise my children the same way. That the life lesson I wanted them to learn was, you have a voice and not to be afraid to use it. So the question is, what life lesson for our moms or our parents, what life lessons did you receive that you've tried to pass to your children?
I would have to say the lesson of conversation. It was just important that in this generation, it's easy for the people to just separate, go their own ways, or have their phones out and things like that, or in the car, they're on the phone and things. And so one of the things that was very important to me was taking that time to talk to my son, which my mom always took the time to talk to us. If it was around the dinner table, if it was in the car, right? Because when I was a kid, there was no cell phones or no iPads or anything like that. So Ronnie can you know, attest to this, that in the car, if someone called me with him in the car, I send right to voicemail, because that's our time to have a conversation. That's my time to look in the mirror and ask how his day was, or what happened today, or what have you. Just setting that precedent that he was the priority in that. I don't care if we were driving for an hour. He was the priority, not whatever was going on the phone. Now, it was someone that I needed to acknowledge, like my mom, and I would just say, "Hey, Mom, we're in the car. I'll call you back when I get home." But I wanted to make sure that those intimate moments of having a conversation, just many times when I always had some teenage boys in my back seat, and it would be so funny how they would just be, I always just, you know, chatty Cathy, just talk, and wanting to tell me everything. Ronnie may have shared some of the things already in confidence, but they would be back there talking. But it made me realize that kids want to share. They want to talk to you. If you're going to give them your attention, they want to share. Or you sit at the end of their beds and say, "Okay, well, you know," and just sit with them and talk. So that was really important as he grew up, which is why we have such a great relationship, and he can talk to me about all types of things, is because I made that priority. So I would say that's something my mom used to do with us. Probably from a generational standpoint, we didn't have as many distractions, but I wanted to make sure that that's something I brought into raising my son, and hopefully he'll do the same, because you know, God knows what will be the technology or the advancements, but there's nothing like spending that quality time and having those conversations.
I think that the routine, or for lack of a better word, I'm going to say the discipline. I think we had a dinner time, and my kids were active in sports. They were active in the band, but they knew we had a dinner time. And I mentioned those after school activities because it meant that they weren't always there at dinner time. But when they did not have that commitment, they knew to be in place at dinner time. And certainly it yields to conversation and interacting and talking about what happened today. And I see that we have 6 grandchildren, and I see that in repetitively in some of the grandchildren, that to have a time when a family comes together on a regular basis, not once a week, not Sunday dinner, but every day, that it makes for support, it makes for sharing your love, it makes for expressing when something's not going right. It gives you an opportunity to hear what your mom, dad, your brother, sister feel about it. There's just so much that's so valuable from coming together. Yeah. And I will have conversations with my grandchildren now and with their parents that we have to limit the electronics. It's taking precedence over everything. And there are times when you have to just shut it down. And like Sister Mother LeBou just said, you can, or maybe it was Sister Martinique who said, put it on mute and get back to it if it's not an emergency. But and that can be generational. But we have to continue it. It bothers me.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that, it's what I've heard you all say, that it's important to spend that bonding time. And one thing I just want to just throw this out there. Don't expect your children to like you through the whole thing. Okay. You won't win a prize every day you do this.
But we'll appreciate it for later.
We've been able to talk lately. One of our 4 children would write notes when she was upset with us. She would write it and fold it up, really tiny it, and leave it where I could find it. On her dresser, on my dresser. And to this day, we laugh about it. But she did get rid of her dislike for us at the moment. But she would write notes about it. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I love that. It's made her a fabulous woman.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. That's wonderful.
I feel like oftentimes, and rightfully so, there's a lot of emphasis on, what did the moms teach their child? But something that I always like to consider too is, what have you learned from your son? What have you learned from your daughter? Right? So moms, can you share a little bit? Mom, what have you learned? What have you learned from us?
Oh, so the question is, what have we learned? What, as a parent, what have we learned from our children? Okay.
Yeah.
Rich, this is double duty for you. You know what? I think one of the things that I've learned from Maya and watching Maya is I don't know if I have what the word is. Maya is a very nice person. I mean, she's a very patient person. She's a very nice person. And I tend to react and I jump. And so what I've learned from her is just to be patient, for lack of a better word, just to be patient. And she's very accepting of people. I'll give you an example. Okay. Don't think ill of me. Okay.
I'm nervous.
Okay. We were out. We were out somewhere. When I said she's a very giving, she's a nice person. We were out somewhere. She'd just gotten blood drawn at a lab court or something. And there was a homeless person there. And she had just gotten somebody gave her $25 for a birthday or something like that. She says, Mom, can I go give him the $25? I'm like, $25? And she looked like, Mom, really? You complaining because I want to give $25 to a homeless person? I'm like, oh, okay. So I say that because I've learned, through growth in Christ in me, of course, but I've learned to watch her negotiate people. And she has a confidence and a kindness that I admire. So I've learned that lesson to continually check myself, because she will check me, and say, just back it up, Mom, back it up, Mom. So I've learned that from her. I've learned to back it down a little bit.
Good job, Maya.
Yep.
I try. All a day's work.
She got a lot more work to do.
Well, I guess it's my turn. So one of the things, and people may not know this about me, I'm somewhat of an introvert. I've grown and matured as time goes on as far as my career and things like that. But Ronald is a natural extrovert. He is very confident. He is very comfortable. He is a natural leader. Areas in which I remember he had to do a public speaking activity at school. And I said, oh, we need to practice. Oh, don't be nervous. It's okay. It's the second most thing people are afraid of next to snakes. And he just kind of looked at me. He was like, well, Mom, if I can pitch in front of hundreds of people, I can, give a speech.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, I swear he might've been 5, and we went to visit another church with my friend. And I remember back then they used to say, oh, if there's any visitors, stand up and introduce yourself and say your church affiliation. And this little 5-year-old sitting next to me said, Mom, we're visiting. Don't be shy. Stand up and introduce yourself. And then everybody was like, praise the Lord. That's funny. I was thinking to myself, like, it's a big church. They would have not known. And then so his little voice, he kind of forced me to stand up and introduce myself. And he was really excited.
Sure.
And so in so many different environments, if I don't know or familiar, is not a natural thing for me. But I've learned over the years watching him and how comfortable and how he's like a chameleon, and so I've learned that from him and enhanced those skills in myself by watching his grace and his confidence. And some of the things I've pushed him towards, sports and music and activities. And I've done that because I wanted to make sure he didn't have sort of that, that quiet introversion that I struggled with as a young person. And he definitely didn't. And he always encourages me. And so that I get from him. And it really is something that I'm really proud of, that he actually teaches me how to be more outgoing at times.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
You got anything?
No,
She ain't learned nothing from me.
The spirit. I've already spoken about his ability to give, and I've sat here and reflected on situations and how his behavior influenced me to change my style. And it goes back to giving. And that was, we were leaving a funeral service and it was on his birthday. And we were walking with someone who was needy. And as he held her hand and was just speaking about God and just encouraging, at the same time, he was putting a large bill in her hand. So it wasn't visible to me. Now later she called me and told me what he had done. And it was very emotional. I should tell you, from that day to this is when I started giving on my birthday.
I love that.
Yeah, it is just so empowering. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It's whatever you feel, whatever the spirit leads you to do. And I was thinking about the homeless person and the $25. I struggled with that for a minute, only very briefly. I found peace in telling myself that it was between them and God, whatever they did with that.
Yep.
They didn't take it and buy food or
Yep.
go buy a t-shirt or
Yep.
whatever. It was between them and God that I had satisfied what I felt God expected of me. And so then I was done.
Yep.
And I find peace in that, you know, because we don't know what's happening to some of the monies that we give people on the street.
Right. Right.
And I found my peace with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a time when I wondered, should I do it, or what are they going to do with it? Are they going to get a sandwich? Should I go buy the sandwich?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think we all struggle in areas like that, you know, and that was a moment that I just, that popped in my head where, you know, where it definitely came through, you know, what Maya teaching me, and which we have to, as parents, be open to that. You know, we will learn from our children all the time. And I know coming into this, there's no manual in terms of how to be a parent. You know, every child is different. Every person is, you know, if you have 6 children, each of those 6 children is different. So I always wonder, and particularly for people who are listening, you know, who may be new parents or maybe struggling at this point, you know, what did you think motherhood would be like? You know, we see these wonderful commercials with the baby and the rocker and all the other stuff, and, you know, the kids come home, you know. So we sometimes get a very idealistic view of what motherhood is.
Yeah.
You know? And I know going into it, I was scared to pieces because I'm like, okay, they're going to send me home with a baby. Did they do a background check on me? What's happening here? So I was very afraid. You know, I was, I guess, 26-ish when I had her. I was looking for a social worker. I'm like, I need social services. So I know it can be scary. So for our mothers, what did you think motherhood was going to be like when you first had your babies?
I was excited, and I wanted the storybook childhood for my kids. So I really didn't hear a lot about the sleepless nights, the worry over an injury, or the concern for injections and how they needed to be given or spaced or at what time in their life. So for the first child, I was in that storybook world. Yeah. However, I learned very quickly.
You learn fast, don't you?
Yeah. In order to go from 0 to even 5, I needed to have some real direction. I read a lot of books when I could, but I basically tried to refer back to what it was like for me. Now, I can't tell you what my mother struggled with when I was young, up to maybe age 5, but I can tell you from that age on, and getting me to school, and while she had to work, and all of that struggle. But the value of it is inbred in me.
Yeah,
it's just invaluable. How I believe that remembering the things that she did, to even taking me out of public school and putting me in a Catholic school, because the nuns would watch us until she came home from work, that kind of thing. And she was a devout deaconess in her church, but she could sacrifice that association religiously to protect her child. And so there's a lot of strength gained from knowing to make sacrifices to get what you want for your children. Yeah. And I thought that was a great example. So I went to Catholic Mass on Sunday, and then at 11 o'clock, I went to Baptist church. That was my childhood. Because one of the requirements was we had to attend the Mass.
Wow.
At that time.
All right. All right. And Sister Martinique, what about you? What did you think motherhood was going to be like?
Well, if there was a superpower, motherhood would be one that I would have, because I was a very confident mother. I was a mother in my early 20s, and that was just something that I was just good at it. I knew what my responsibility was. I knew what the sacrifice looked like, you know, and I have to say that you know, has to do with the way my mother raised me. I mean, it was so important to me to do everything I needed to do to make sure I produced what you're seeing right now. And pouring in him and sowing in him and dedicating and sacrificing and those types of things. So I always, you know, say I signed up for this, you know, it's a contract, and he is my ministry. And it's important that was important, so important. Now there was other areas that I didn't do well with relationships, you know, other areas I didn't have certain strengths, but motherhood was one that God blessed me with the gift and the strength to do it right. One of the things that God gave me the revelation was like, okay, raising one child is a handful, let alone 3, 4, 5 children. So, because the way that I wanted to do it, I knew I needed to do it right. And so, I always joke with him. I was like, sorry, sweetie, you're the only one. I got to pour it all into you. I got to have all the structure for you and all the guidance for you. And I only get one shot at this, you know. And I often have so much, you know, other children that I mother and his friends and, you know, different people in my life. But I was ready. I was ready. And my mom was mothering me right up until, you know, I gave birth to him, you know, telling the nurses what they needed to do and how fast they needed to do it. And they better need to do it before, you know, and she was mothering me up until I gave birth to him. And so once he was here, he was my focus, he was my priority. And so that's an area that I would say was one of my strengths. And so, and I just can only give God the glory and all you know, the grace to do it. So that I don't remember a time where I was afraid.
I can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Maya.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Good. So, Robert, were you going to say something?
Well, I think that the wonderful thing that I've seen in mothers, I've always seen in mothers, is their forever kind of love. And if you all know the gospel song by Jason Nelson, where he says, "Forever is a long time. That's how much I love you. You know, that I love you forever." And, you know, while I've watched my mother with her 4 kids, while I've watched, you know, Lisa with our 2 kids, it's not that the mother's love is different. It's just different. Maybe it's because, you know, the women carry the babies. And it's not minimizing a father's love, but it's different. And it's a special type of thing. You know, Bishop would always say, you know, your kid to be axe murder, and my mom would be like, I love that, my baby. I love my baby. You know?
You're gonna take that axe away, but he's all right.
But it's a different type of thing that it's to watch it in action is a marvelous thing. And so I just thank God for all the, you know, there's some bad moms out there, of course, but I just thank God for all the good mothers that have that forever type of love for their kids, that, you know what, they're always going to love them. They're always going to be there for them. They're always going to, you know, they're not going to let them do whatever they want to do. They're just going to be there. And I've been blessed to have a good mom, to have a wonderful mother for our kids, and to see so many wonderful mothers. So just God bless all the wonderful mothers.
Amen.
And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate that. Amen on that. And that is so encouraging. I think we titled this, we're talking about Mother Knows Best, and we started saying that this is not a slight, you know, against dad. So Reverend Rich, I'm glad to hear you say there's a difference. One is not necessarily better than other, mother and father. It is different. It is a different type of, it's just different. And God.
And don't you think the role is
The roles are different, and God created it that way. So when we
Sure.
accept that, it just, there's a rhythm that happens in a family. There's a rhythm that happens when we accept that. You know, I watched my husband sleeps by the door. My kids, they walk around the bed. Mom, I'm like, didn't you just pass your father? Okay.
We've all done it.
They wake me up in the middle of the night. So there is something special about the role of a mom and dad, but there's something special about that nurturance that we bring to our home, you know. And I want us to be encouraging to some of the moms who may be listening who are struggling at this point, realizing that my sister Martinique, I'm going to go back to what you said. It's an investment. You know, you made an investment in Ronald. A conscious decision to say, okay, fine, I'll put the phone on mute. And being a mother, sometimes you have to make a conscious decision and be dedicated to making that investment, because as Sister June said, it just doesn't happen. You have to put thought into it. You know, there are no perfect people, so there are no perfect mothers. So I want us who are feeling.
But there's some bad ones though.
Maya, you be quiet. You know, we want to just make sure there's no perfect mom. There's no perfect mom. So wherever I'm so glad to hear that, you know, that it's okay to walk in who we are as moms.
Yeah, it's really okay. And it's in the day of celebration is, you know, every day is Mother's Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every day should be Mother's Day. Every day, you know, we're fathers, and we, you know, you can talk about Father's Day, but mothers are just a special bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless us and thank us, and we thank God just for the fact that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Where would we be? You know?
So I want to use this as an opportunity for everyone watching to leave a heart in the comments for your mothers to show your love and appreciation for them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, going back to like what you just said, Mom and Sister Martinique, like you guys are making a conscious effort to raise up your kids right and to lead them with wisdom and understanding that sometimes I feel like maybe a fruitless action. Where you're not seeing that turn or the appreciation right away, right? But I know oftentimes I feel like it comes out later where we're not able to understand it until we get there. So I also wanted to leave that encouragement for mothers who are feeling a little overwhelmed that they're not making an impact. You guys are. You might not see it until 15, 20 years, but what you guys do is so important. So I just want to make sure that you know that you are appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I don't know if it's like, you know, generational thing or like a lingo, but it's new lingo that's saying, you know, I'm built different. Like moms are built different, or for a better phrase, maybe stitched from a different cloth. And I just think, you know, there's just, like you said, a uniqueness about, like, nothing against that, nothing against my dad or anything like that. Not to say he doesn't love me any less than my mom does, but it's just something different that they give, that they can offer, that they can provide for you. That just bothers me.
Yeah.
So.
And
that's wonderful.
Right, and to comment on the fruitless act. Because sometimes it doesn't manifest itself, or you don't realize it's manifesting itself. And I remember one day, you know, sitting down with Bishop, and he said he was commenting, and so he's like, "Oh, not many mothers are like you, and great mothers like you, this, that, and the third." And I had to ask him a question. Like, I didn't have a T-shirt on and said I'm an awesome mother or anything. And I said, "Bishop, well, how do you know I'm a great mom?" He goes, "Oh, I see your fruit." He's like, "I see your fruit every day, every Sunday." And I'm like, "Oh, you mean my fruit," meaning Ronnie, because in my mind he was very deep into how I mother, and I'm like, I didn't tell you how I mother. But for him to say, "Oh, I see your fruit," I didn't realize that Ronald is absolutely a reflection on how I raised him. But sometimes as a mom, we don't realize that everything we've poured and sowed and sacrificed, it does produce fruit. And, you know, Ronnie was all of a teenager, and I was shocked when Bishop said that. So it was enlightening to know that, okay, I am doing a good job, and and sometimes we don't recognize that, but no, it matters. It absolutely matters.
Absolutely.
And your fruit are the children that you raise. So don't underestimate the things that you do for them. So it's important.
I always say every interaction counts. Every interaction, whether they get off the school bus and you meet them at the door, every interaction counts. So moms, hang in there. Yeah,
the struggle is definitely worth it, and there are folks there to help too. Whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's your church family. That when there are those times that you need to reach out. Sure. Reach out. Sure. Jesus needed 12 disciples, right? It wasn't he didn't have to have them, but he showed in his humanity that he needed those 12. So it's okay to ask for help sometimes, or to look for somewhere for some encouragement when things get tough. Because all the mothers on this line know that there are times when things get tough. So
it truly takes a village.
Especially really dealing with me.
The saying "it takes a village" is so true. It truly does take a village to raise your son. Me as a mother, I knew that I needed to connect him with strong men of God, like Reverend Rich, like past bishop, and different people in my life, my brothers and things. I knew that there were certain things I couldn't pour into him. So moms, don't think you need to know it all and do it all or whatever. Depending on who, you might have a good friend that needs to pour into your daughters. Maybe she's a different career or a different type. Don't think it needs to just be you. Your wisdom in part is to make sure you connect. I used to say to him, schedule some time with Reverend Rick, and make sure you sit down with Pastor Nick, and make sure or his, just like at college, I'm like, make sure you connect with the VP of D&I, make sure you connect, and that was my wisdom. I want these individuals to pour into him because I know I don't have those qualities to pour in, and so that's where that wisdom comes into, mom. So create your village, find your village.
Exactly.
Absolutely. One of the things, I always tell Myers has a very special mother. I sometimes I think a little outside the box. So I've had to apologize from time to time, like, Myers, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So even don't be afraid to apologize if you make. Once again, there are no perfect moms. If you make a mistake, you know what? We made a mistake and kind of move on. So I wanted to ask, I often, think about how both of my children were raised with me, and how I've sort of rubbed off on them in different ways, I sometimes get myself in very peculiar circumstances every now and then. So I'm like, they're funny to me, but may not be funny to anybody else. So I always, what is one of the funniest things, and this is for the kids, what's one of the funniest memories, one of the funniest things you've seen your mom do? What's Watch your mouth, Maya.
I know. I'm trying to be careful here. Probably, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but this is the one that comes to my mind first, and we always laugh about it now. My mom loves to learn. She loves picking up new words. I'm sorry, Mom.
You're going to throw me under the bus?
Yeah, I am. Sorry. So one day we were sitting at the kitchen table, and she heard a word. Or what was it? You saw it written somewhere or something. And
okay, let's stop. Let's focus on the positive. Mom likes to know new words.
That's how I started. Okay. That's how I started. Okay. Thank you. All I hear is, ooh, misogenetic. Ooh, I love new words. Misogenetic. Let me Google that. I'm like, Mom, you mean misogynistic? I didn't even know that word. And it's a silly moment, but to this day, like we always get a good laugh out of it. That's what comes to my mind first. Sorry, Mom.
It's all right. So I made a new word. It's okay. Anybody else? What's the funniest thing you've seen your mom do?
As being 21, she sees, the things that I do and like the stuff that I wear and maybe some of the phrases that I say. And I just think it's hilarious when my mom's talking to me and stuff like that, and she might use some of my quote unquote lingo. Like, I'm hip too. Like, I'm cool too. Like, I know what you're talking about. And I'm like, all right. And then obviously when she says it, it sounds different from coming to me, but I just think it's funny when she tries to use the same terms. Cool. Like, she's like, I'm trying to be cool too. When she'll drop it when she's talking to my friends, and then my friends use it. You see how I use that? She tries to be cool and hip like us 21-year-olds,
I might say it a year and a half late, like fleek and stuff. Like, no,
like, fleek is out now.
That's over. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to keep up. Oh, and then the new one is facts.
Facts, yeah. Facts.
Everything is facts.
Facts.
Like when a situation is done, I say it's quiet for that. It's over for that.
Yes.
Like, it's quiet. It's not.
Yes.
It's facts. Okay.
It's facts.
Facts.
It's facts.
But I end up down the thing, so I try.
Well, I've seen a lot of things in my time that are funny.
Get ready, Sister June.
But I'm gonna keep some of those to myself. But I don't know that it's funny, but back to similar to what Ronnie said, but it's more as it relates to fashion. My mom is pretty tight dressed as it is. But when I see her with the Adidas warm up and the Adidas sneakers and the Run DMC look or the LL Cool J look, look at Mom stepping out.
Go ahead, Sister June.
The white and black Adidas, the black Adidas warm up with the stripes down, looking like Reverend Ron or somebody from DMC. It says, but that keeps her in the game, right? And as long as you're staying in the game, you get the chance to play.
But he just used the word pretty tight. Deaconess Andrea, do you know what that means?
Pretty tight.
Pretty tight.
A skirt that won't fit anymore.
That's what I would say. That's not what he meant.
No, okay. You pimping, you good, you doing your thing.
Pretty tight. Okay. Pretty tight.
You showing out, that's what he means.
No, I give up on that. It's like that commercial they have on TV, the person where the homeowners, you turn into your mom. That's something about for homeowners insurance. It's like
that's a good commercial. Those are good commercials.
I give up. I have to be who I have to be. It makes me laugh. That's fun. Sister June, you keep wearing your Adidas. You keep wearing that Adidas suit.
She got more than one. Got a couple of them.
Now, if she starts breakdancing, that's a different.
Yeah.
That's something different.
May get broke trying to dance, but ain't.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. So I think we're getting ready to wind down at this point. So I just wanted to, sort of we wanted to bring it back together and talk about, this pandemic has taught us so many life lessons. I don't know about you all, but, we are seeing, things happen around us, to people around us that we just never thought that we would see. And it's taught me personally many lessons in appreciating life and appreciating the people who are in our lives. If you had to pick, what do you value most in each other as parent and child? What is something through this pandemic and learning to become closer? And I think we've really gotten to know each other more at this point because we've been forced to stay in the house. What is something that you've learned to value in each other at this point during this time of the pandemic?
Mm-hmm.
Like my mom said earlier, me and my mom have always had a really close relationship. Mm-hmm. So during the pandemic was, nothing really new. You see, it's like unfortunate because you see stuff in the news saying like, parents can't stand being with their kids all day, and there's so many arguments and stuff like that. And, people can't escape when they go to work and they can't get rid of the kids and send them to school and all that stuff like that. So like I wouldn't say there's anything I necessarily knew that I learned, because the foundation was already there. That bond was already there. It just, made it easier to be in the house together for how many ever months, because we were just able to make more memories and enjoy our presence together. So I don't think there's anything new that I necessarily learned from her, because we already had a strong foundation, a strong relationship together. So it made that transition from COVID a whole lot, because we liked spending time together. We were just able to spend a lot more time together. So we were able to watch movies and play games and all that fun stuff. So
it did confirm that, again, to the moms, that it really matters to start to build that relationship. So because in an environment like what we were faced with in 2020, it was easy. That was one less thing I had to worry about is us and how we interacted with one another. It was natural. It was comfortable. It was, we had so many other things that we were concerned with: the health of others, our jobs, just a pandemic in itself. And it was nice that we weren't oil and water. We weren't bickering. We weren't fighting, we weren't disagreeing. It was a natural transition, and it was a blessing, because the last time that I had 6 or 7 months before he went back to school, 24/7 time with my son, with no school, with no work, with no sports, with no anything, was when he was born, and I was home on maternity leave for 6 months, with him 24/7. So it was like full circle to have 20 years, he was 20 years old, and to have all of that quality time, wake up, go to bed. We see each other all day, every day, with no life interruptions other than the blessing of me being able to work from home and him virtually go to college from home. But it was a gift, and it gave us time to focus on those other concerns, and the weight was a little lighter because we weren't focused on our relationship, because that was already in place.
Sister Martinique, I especially appreciate your comments just now. We tried to really make an effort to concentrate on the positive.
Yes, ma'am.
And it did get us through with everybody well, everybody healthy. It was not always so easy to not fall into that space, but with God in our lives, we knew that we had to just celebrate what was good. And we would verbally say it and help the other one if the negative creeped in. Not chastising, but just turn the conversation around. And it's put us on the winning side. It really has. I kissed my granddaughter 3 weeks ago now, for the first time in a year and so many months. It was very emotional. I didn't want to break down in front of her, but exactly what we've heard on television, I felt for that moment I was experiencing, and didn't know that I was in that space because God had kept us, and always wanting to celebrate rather than do the opposite.
And God continues to keep us, right? I mean, as I know we're winding down, that my mom gave me a scripture when I was really young. And if you look at my bio on the Bethany site, it's the same scripture. I know plenty of scriptures, but this one, Philippians 4:6, be careful and be anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God which passes all understanding. So keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Even in this pandemic, even when we were overseas, even when, that scripture has just grounded us in that. We don't have to be anxious. We can go to God and let him know what's going on. And his peace, the situation may not change, but the peace of that will change. And that was a gift. That was a gift that was given to me from a mother when I was really young. and I've kept it, and I've held on to it, and I won't ever let that go.
Mm-hmm.
I won't ever let that go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But God.
Mm-hmm.
But God, absolutely. But God. And I feel like this pandemic has been so overwhelming, you know, for so many people for so many different reasons, whether it be, you know, loss of a loved one or loss of work. You know, this has been a hard time globally. And, you know, it's been rough to see friends and, you know, just people, like you said, Sister June, on the TV going through these struggles. But at the same time, I'm just so blessed that I have my family here with me. I have my mom here with me. I'm able to celebrate Mother's Day with her. So, you know, just as time during the pandemic, it just really made me appreciate her, my mom, so much more because I know, especially now, how easy it would be to lose her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with just how easy, you know, this virus is being spread.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes me love and value the time that we have together even more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think that's one of the things that if we're not careful, we'll lose focus of, because sometimes we could feel like we're living in a world of negativity and everything around us is bad. You know, everything is not working. But sometimes you just have to focus on the things that are immediately around you that are good and absorb that and know that the peace of God is going to surround you, even amongst turmoil. The world may be going crazy. Things will be crazy outside your door. But the love of God and the peace of God can reside with you where you are in every moment that you are. So that's good.
So we're going to wind things down, but we just want to end this conversation, and I think in what I think is a special way. Kids, I want you to answer my mom is, and moms, I want you to answer your child is.
So finish the sentence. My
so
mom
finish
is,
that
or
sentence.
my child. Okay.
You can
All
go
right.
first, Mom.
Oh, put me on the spot. Okay. My child is, Maya is, you know, this is, and I'm not going to get emotional. This is probably one of the things that I admire about Maya is one of the strongest people I know. And I'm going to put you on blast right now. Right now, Maya's sitting in a wheelchair. You can't see it. But she's sitting in a wheelchair because she's had major surgery for the 5th time and has to learn how to walk all over again for the 5th time, you know. So, you know, and she's in pain a lot sometimes. So Maya is one of the strongest, kindest, God-purposed people that I know, you know, because God wouldn't put these things on her if she didn't have a strong purpose. So that's who I think you are. That's who I think you are.
Thanks, Mom. Believe it or not, I was actually going to say the same thing. My mom is the strongest person that I know. The sacrifices that you make, the challenges you go through, you push through it all. And you try to keep a lot of it from us, you know, so that we're not feeling weighed out. But I know that can't be easy on you as well. And I see you standing there being strong, and keeping others uplifted as well, even others outside of the house. And again, that's something that I admire about you so much. So you're the strongest person I know, Mom.
Yay! Thank you.
So my mom, if I could sum it all up, she's Wonder Woman. She can do it all. She's my rock. You know, we're both Geminis, so it's like I feel like we like radiate off each other. We're each other's source. So when I'm down, I call my mom, and I'm instantly lifted up. And then when mom's stressed about something, she'll call me, and she's instantly lifted up. Like that is the dynamic we have. That is the relationship we have. And she's Wonder Woman. She can do it all. She can save the day. She can, you know, help me through any situation. And you know, that's who my mom is to me. She's my rock. She's my
nice. Nice.
By the grace of God, right? My son Ronald is my greatest gift. He is my inspiration. He is my joy. And I always say, you know, he is what he has given me purpose for these last 20 plus years. You're not 21 yet. But he is a gift. I always say, you know, my hashtag, my greatest gift. That's what he is to me. He has inspired me. He has, you know, just built me up into the person that I am. Being his mother is a part of what makes me who I am, and the proudest parts of who I am as a person, and everything else gleans from that. So I'm so proud of him, you know, turning 21 in a couple weeks. And so he just is definitely my inspiration. And you know, I truly thank God every day for the
Nice.
motherhood.
My son, Reverend Rick. I could start in so many directions. He is constant. He is, no matter the emotional situation, and we've had them in our family, as many families have, he stays on track. No matter what we're doing or falling apart, we know that Rich has got it. He's got it under control. He's going to make sure it's done. And I just want him to know that we care about how he carries each of us. And we pray that we give him strength and endurance. And we just love him. And we believe we can do all things through Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Well, so my mom is the best mom that I could have ever asked for, and I wouldn't trade her for anything else. And that's
Thank
just
you.
the best.
Thank you.
Aw,
Thank you.
Oh, that is the best. Oh, great. Great.
Well,
great.
thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for our panelists here today. Such great conversation. Again, happy Mother's Day to all of you watching. Please go ahead again, share this video. Let someone know to watch it and watch it later. And we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Amen.
Thank
Happy
you.
Mother's
Thank
Day.
you.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.